What you have on the screen is also what's on the YouTube.
Okay.
Let me call him. Okay. I don't know. SRM, are you listening? Yeah, now it's okay. We can go.
Okay. Let's begin with a prayer. It is important. The Lord has enabled us to see another week. And let's bow for a prayer. Lord, we thank you this morning for your love and care. Thank you, Lord, you have been so gracious to us throughout the week. And we want to thank you so much because you have enabled us, Lord, to see another week. Thank you. This is the first lesson this week. It is also the first lesson this day. Lord, we pray that you're going to guide us. We are praying that you're going to go with us. Father, enable us, give us capacity to understand the things that, Lord, we are learning. Give us capacity, Lord, to even be a further acquire and, dear Lord, inculcate these skills, Lord, in our lives. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Welcome all to today's lesson. Our topic today is listening and note making. I am your facilitator, Emis Kageni, and I think we are now good to go. When we talk about listening is an important component of our lives, and it is important that we pay attention to this very important skill in our lives. Now, the lesson objectives, as we can see there, by the end of this lesson, the learners should be able to distinguish between listening and hearing. They should also be able to outline the importance of listening in our lives. They should also be able to explain the levels of listening, discuss effective listening strategies, and ways of improving listening skills. They should also be able to identify the barriers to effective listening in academic and other contexts, and provide possible solutions for each. They should also be able to identify and explain different economical means of taking notes, and also be able to take notes that show relative importance of ideas using different formats such as Cornell and the others that we are going to discuss in the course of this lecture. This is how the content is organized. We are going to begin by defining listening. Then we shall look at the listening process, and then look at the important aspects of the listening process. Then we shall also look at the qualities of a good listener, importance of listening in our lives, levels of listening, barriers of listening and overcoming those barriers, effective listening strategies, improving listening skills, how to take notes, advantages of taking notes, and also we shall be able to look at the note-making formats. Now, when we talk about listening, we would like to distinguish listening and hearing. So are they one and the same thing? Are they synonymous? But as you can see here, listening, hearing is the act of receiving sound. So you can hear even when you're just seated, when you are asleep, or you can hear because your ears are open, because hearing is the act of receiving sound, just receiving sound and doing nothing about it. But listening is different from hearing. Listening is the act of receiving sound. So you receive sound or oral stimuli through the ear. Then you go an extra mile where you construct meaning. Whatever you hear, be it sounds, words, music, then for listening to be said to have taken place, then there is the aspect of constructing meaning, and then there is the responding of, there is a response, there is a feedback that you give to the spoken message. Listening also involves ability to retain information as well as react emphatically to the spoken messages. Now, this is why it is very, very important for us to improve the skill of listening, because for us to be said to have listened effectively, then we ought to be able to react, to give a feedback, to be able to respond in a particular way. So there are important aspects of listening. So when we talk about listening, what do we note about listening? So that now we are able to distinguish just hearing. People can hear, even when they are just passing, they can hear. They don't have to do anything to hear. But listening is different. It is an active process. As you can see there, listening is an active process and of receiving oral stimuli. Oral stimuli, which is what we mean by oral stimuli, either words or maybe whatever it is that gets through our ears. Can be words, can be music, can be sounds of whatever nature. So it is an active process. It is also a voluntary process. On the contrary, hearing is involuntary. You can hear even when you don't mean to. But listening is a voluntary process. You choose to listen. And now, when you come down here, we say now it is an active. So what we note about listening is it is an active, deliberate, selective process. These three components are very, very important components of listening. So it is an active. So you can't just sit passively and imagine that you're going to listen effectively. You have to be active. Then it is a deliberate process. So you deliberately choose to listen. And then selective. You also deliberately choose what to listen to. You deliberately select what to focus your attention on. So we are saying that listening is an active, deliberate, selective process by which a message is received, critically interpreted, and acted upon by a purposeful listener. So in the course of our stay or even our growing up, I've seen myself working on my listening skills when I find like at times I've assessed my skills and told myself, here I am not a good listener. So it is important. Sorry, my.
Okay, sorry, our facilitator will be back. Just a small mishap with the electricity where she is, but she's going to be back. I just want to ask us to be patient a little bit as she reconnects. And a number of us are saying that oh, sorry, I'm saying that I've read your comments and some of you are saying that the slides are not clear. Just as we highlighted last week, perhaps Your gadget could be small because when we use the computer, we are able to see, but I still encourage you to do this. This lesson is about listening and not taking. We are talking about active listening. When you feel like something is a distraction, it's not enabling you to follow the lesson, just listen. Focus on the lecture by listening actively. These notes will still be availed to you. They're just here to help us move step by step, but you can still listen and take the notes without having the PowerPoints on. So please, let's change our mindset. Listen every time. Let listening be our key aspect that we are doing, and perhaps even take some short notes as the lecture continues. Yeah, so the lecturer is back. Please, Emis, proceed.
Hello, I hope mnanisikia sasa. So let me go back a little
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So sorry for those hitches. They are called teething problems. They always appear, but I hope that we are going to go on smoothly. So when I got switched off, I had apologized and said that I didn't know that I wasn't properly connected to the source of power. So my laptop just went off. It happens, but it is unfortunate that it is happening as so many are listening to me. So we had just said that listening is and deliberate. It is an active, deliberate, and a selective process. So we had said that for you, you choose to be active. You choose their things as you're going to see. We listen actively. Then you have to be deliberate on it, and then you have also to select what to listen to, because at one particular time, so much comes, we are being bombarded with so much oral stimuli or so much information. So we select what to focus on while blocking or while ignoring all the others. So we can say basically listening is an active, deliberate, selective process by which a message is received, critically interpreted, and acted upon by a purposeful listener. So you choose to listen, you choose what to listen to, and ignore the rest. And so we are saying that for you to listen and to listen effectively, you have to be deliberate on it and to choose what you want to focus on while ignoring all the rest. Now, there are 5 stages involved in the process of hearing, of listening, sorry. So there is hearing. This is where now the oral stimuli, which is in form of sounds or in form of words or even music, is received by the ear. So, and you have said that this one is an involuntary process. You don't have to do anything to hear because your ears are open. Then the oral stimuli just get, and you don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to even remember. So after hearing, then the next stage is listening. This is where now your ear receives the oral stimuli as vibrations. And these vibrations, once they get into your ear, then they are translated into sensations that are registered by the brain. And once they are registered by the brain, these sensations, at this stage now, your brain, using what we call the working memory, tries to make sense of what you have heard. And after that, there is what we call retaining. Your brain interprets the message, and this message, depending on the way you have programmed your mind, depending on the way you have programmed yourself, can either be retained for a short while because you don't require that information for future. And that is a process that we call retaining. This is interpreted message stored in the short-term memory for immediate use. So you have programmed your mind that this information is just for now, so it will be retained. But if you have programmed yourself, and depending on what you're doing as an active listener as you listen, if you have programmed your mind that this information I need it for future, then there is recalling. This is recalling is a message stored in the long-term memory for future. And as we are going to see, there are things that we do in the course of our listening or to what we listen to, so that we are able to have whatever we have heard, if it is so important and we need it for future, so that it is stored in our long-term memory for future, and we can remember it for as long as we would wish to. Let's look at important aspects of the listening process. We have attention. And when we talk about attention, as I have said already, is that at one particular time, we are bombarded, or we receive so much information. At one particular time, there is information coming all the time. But now, attention is the focus that we choose to give on specific stimuli while blocking all the others. So this is a process that we call attention, and it can either be selective or automatic. So we are saying that when the process where you choose attention is the focus that you give to specific stimuli. So we say that I have decided to give attention to this while block all the rest or leave out everything else that is coming in. So focus is a specific focus that we give, or sustained, we can call it sustained focus that we give to specific stimuli while blocking all the others. So as you are seated listening, you find that there are so many messages coming at one particular time, but you choose to pay attention to one particular thing. So this is the process that we are calling, or this is the aspect that we call attention. It is very, very important that we choose to listen to this and not the other. Depending on what we deem necessary, depending on what we deem important, then we can choose to focus our attention on one particular stimuli and ignore all the rest. And that is what we are forever doing. Because not all things, not all information coming through to us at a particular time is important. So what you deem important, then you give it sustained focus. And attention can either be selective or automatic. Now, selective is the attention that we are saying now, you choose, you select what to focus on. So what we deem very, very important, that is what we focus on, selective attention. But then we can also have what we call automatic attention. Now, this is a kind of attention that it is instinctive, and when there is a change in the environment, something happens, or that even signals danger, then we can, you find that we automatically give it attention. So it is automatic attention. So you don't choose to focus on that, but something happens in the surrounding, something happens around, and then you find that we pay attention to it. So you find that these two, selective and automatic attention, are always in competition. So we have to choose to be deliberate listeners. We have to choose to deliberately listen, because these two, as you focus on a particular thing, then something else happens just outside there, or maybe something else is happening around you there. Maybe someone is talking. You have to choose to ignore, to lock out everything else, because otherwise, instinctively or without even meaning to, we can find ourselves getting our focus removed from what is important, and then we focus on other things that are not very, very important. And then there is what we call the working memory. And the working memory, I talked about it. I said that at the stage where the brain is interpreting or making sense of what you have listened, what you have received through the years, and it has been turned into sensations, as the brain is trying to make sense of that, it uses the working memory. And this is the part of our consciousness that interprets or assigns meaning to stimuli we pay attention to. And that's why even as speakers, when we use, maybe when we are teaching, we are encouraged to use something that is visual. We are encouraged to use something, maybe something that is going to elaborate on what you are saying, something that our brains can capture. Now, when we are doing that, even using visual, something visual that can help our listener or help someone make a mental picture and be able to relate what we are saying and what they are seeing, we are aiding the working memory, because this kind of memory also uses shortcuts. It uses shortcuts when processing information. So you find that it relies on patterns, it relies on letters or words in order to assign meaning. And then we have what we call the short-term memory. The short-term memory, this is the temporary storage for information. And when it is very, very important that we program, our minds can be programmed. Our minds can be programmed, and it is important for us to choose how to program our minds when we are listening. If maybe we are listening and we are telling ourselves that I don't require this, so you don't do so much, you are not active, and you don't rehearse, and so your mind is programmed that I need this just for now. So you hear, you listen to that, and then as soon as maybe the speaker is done with that, then it is stored for a very short time, for a very short time. This short-term memory is the memory that acts as temporary storage for the information. It is very, very unfortunate that most people, even students, rely on the short-term memory for information that deserves to be recorded in the long term. And I also find students making a mistake here. For example, when we have people who pile even their notes, they do not read them as they come, and they do not rehearse them, they do not enhance their memory in any way. So when they hear that there is a cut, when they hear that there is an exam, information that ought to have helped them even for future, they read for that particular exam. They read that information for that particular cut. Now, what happens is that your mind, you've already sent signals to your mind that I'm reading for the cut. So what happens? Immediately you are done with the cut. If we ask you one question pertaining to the notes that you are reading, pertaining to what you are doing for that particular assignment, your mind wanted to just tackle an assignment, and you are done with the assignment. That information is only retained for a short while, and therefore you find that you can't remember many of the things that you did in first year, second year. You can't remember them. You can only remember maybe the very current information. So what do we do with the information that you want to use for future? You rehearse that information, you enhance your memory so that now it is stored in the long-term memory. Because in the long-term memory, this is where this is a permanent storing place for information. And we have to note that the long-term memory has no limitation on the quantity or duration of the stored information. And it is also the memory in the long-term memory. Information is organized in schemas. These are like filing systems. These are like filing systems, so that the information that is there, it only requires a trigger. That's why now there are things that are, or there is information that is normally stored in our long-term memory. For example, do you wonder how you never forget the language? The language that you are taught. Language is stored in the long-term memory. Our values. No wonder the Bible says that teach a young child in the way he should go, and when he grows up, you'll not forget. Why? It is because the values of our society are also stored in the long-term memory. Images, you find that we are unable to forget those people that we saw a long time ago. You only need to see them again and then remember. Meaning that the information concerning images of people, language, even smells or taste. Sometimes I can even remember something that I tasted long time ago, people that I saw long time ago. You can even remember when you are a child, some things, how they used to taste like. For example, we say jokingly like bread. During our time when we were growing up, bread tasted differently. I can still recall the taste of bread. Now, this information is stored in the long-term memory. And for you to access that information requires some stimulus cues, requires some trigger. Maybe an image, then you remember. Maybe a letter, then you remember. Maybe smell, and then you remember. So when we want to store information in the long-term memory, we have to package it. That's why now when it comes to our making of notes, we have to package our notes in a way that if you see a letter, if you see an image, it triggers your memory. It triggers your memory. So this information can be accessed. It is there for as long as you wish, and there is no capacity for that. So what happens when you receive new information? Another file is opened. And so if you're able to package that information in a way that you can remember, you can just trigger that information and then you remember, then memory is enhanced. Now, I also find it is very, very important that, for example, when I've been writing my notes and reading them, I don't like the idea of writing notes from the front, backwards, from backwards, in a confused manner. At times, I found myself being able even to assess my notes from my mind, the way I've read them. I can see topic by topic from the front of the book as they move, and I can see them. The way you have underlined your notes, the way you have written them, the way you have organized them, you only need that acts as a trigger. So what happens now when you have written your notes from the front, from the back, in a confused manner, you have no way maybe of accessing that information. So it is important we take care of this. What we want to remember for future, we enhance. What we don't want maybe for future, it is stored in the short-term memory, and therefore we should not be worried when it is forgotten as soon as we are done with the assignment, because you didn't enhance that. So if you need to remember something, then enhance. And we are going to see ways of enhancing our listening skills, ways of enhancing our memory of what we want to keep in stock. Let's look at qualities of a good speaker, or sorry, qualities of a good listener. They listen more and talk less. They do not interrupt others. They are good at turn taking. They are aware of their own biases. Remember, my listeners, these are very, very important skills. And we have said that we are forever learning. We are forever improving on our skills. So it is very, very important that when we are listening to people, we learn. This I've learned over time, to listen to people as they talk. Now, what happens? Just assess yourself. What happens to you even when you are making a call? Do you find yourself wanting to say as the other person is saying? Now, those people who do not listen more and talk less, you find that you are busy processing. Sometimes I found people, even in a gathering, in a meeting, ask questions that have already been asked by others. I've also seen others repeat responses that have been given by others. Why is that? Because maybe as a speakers, or maybe as those people that were asking questions, you are busy maybe processing your own question, or you are busy thinking what you're going to say next. So you rarely hear, you don't hear what the others are saying, or you don't process what the others are saying. Therefore, you don't listen, and therefore you end up maybe saying things that have even been, you ask elaborations or clarifications that have already been made, because maybe when the speakers were speaking, you are busy processing your own answers. I've also seen people who have their hands, maybe for example in a question answer session, I've seen people who have their hands up forever. Your hand is up because you want to say your answer. Now, what should you do? You're supposed to put your hand down, listen to the responses of other people, listen to what they are saying, so that now, if what you wanted to ask has been asked, then you don't repeat. But we have people, once you have made up your mind that you want to ask this, you have your hand up throughout, and you don't even hear when the speakers responding to what you wanted to ask, and therefore you make a fool of yourself. So let's listen more, and it is a skill that you can train yourself to. I have held my breath when I'm listening to someone talk over the phone for as long as they will be done with what they are saying, so that now I'm able to respond appropriately. Remember, in the process of doing this, we are learning to be proper communicators. So do not interrupt others. This is a very offensive behavior. We are people who really wait for others to finish what they are saying in order to say what they are. So it is offensive. It is offensive, very, very offensive, for us to offend others, to cut them short mid-sentence, and to look like you are dismissing what they are saying. So it is important. It is an important quality of a good listener. They are also good at turn taking. We have people who forever talk, and you know such people are really offensive. You meet with a person and they just want to talk and dominate and talk, and once they are done now, they tell you bye. Let's see you next time. Or even in a discussion, or even in a meeting, people who will never even wait for their turn. People who will never even allow others to talk. So it is important for people to take a turn when talking, to listen to others when they are talking, also to wait for your turn to speak. And they are also aware of their own biases. It is important as good listeners to take stock as we now go through this. I am only unpackaging what is this in listening. There is a lot to do in listening, but it is important as good listeners, or as people who endeavor to be good listeners, that we take stock of our own biases. We take stock of our own weaknesses. How good are we? What are our weaknesses? And therefore, whatever prevents, whatever hinders our ability to be good listeners, we do something about it. There is something that we can do about that. Let's look at the importance of listening in our lives. Listening is very, very important. it is an essential task for effective communicators. So any effective communication, any effective communication, if you have any productive communication, if you have any fruitful communication, then it has to start with us being good listeners. And so that we avoid saying, I was misquoted. You have had people saying, I was misquoted, because if we do not listen to others, then we also not respond to them appropriately. Listening helps us build and maintain relationships. This goes without saying that you have to listen to other people, listen to their points of view, listen to their perspectives, so that you are able even to relate with them well. Because if you don't pay attention to what others are telling you, you might end up even replying, even in a communication setup, replying what you ought not to have replied, or replying in the wrong manner. So for us to build and maintain good relationships, then we ought to be good listeners. Let's listen to others when they talk. Let's listen to their point of view. Let's listen to their opinions, and then we are going to be able to maintain good relationships. Listening can help us determine whether people we are communicating with are honest or deceitful. Yes, because we have different levels of listening. So when we listen to people, as we analyze the speakers, we want to see whether they are genuine. We want to see whether the speakers that are speaking to us are authentic. Are they authorities in what they are saying? Then we avoid being taken in so easily. We are able to assess what they are saying, how factual it is, how reliable the information is, and therefore it can help us to determine whether the people we are communicating with are honest or deceitful. Then listening is an essential skill for success in academics, in business world. This goes without saying. So if you want to be successful in your academics, then you listen, and you listen well. You listen, and you listen actively, even in the business world. Now, if you don't listen well, become a poor communicator, you have poor relationships, and therefore it is not possible for you to succeed very well, even in the business world. Listening is directly linked to our ability to remember information. Yes, we have said that when we are listening purposefully, we are listening deliberately, we are listening actively, so that whatever we say, whatever we listen, whatever is said to us, we are able to remember. So it is directly linked to our ability to remember. So if you want to remember, then you listen. And I want to say that now I discourage people who task others to listen for them. For example, in the lectures, you are not there, you're not listening, you're not there. So you are waiting maybe for someone else to listen on your behalf. They take notes on your behalf, and then you photocopy. That is very, very unfortunate. It is unfortunate. You will never be able to see for yourself. You know, there are very many things that happen in the listening process that enhance your understanding. So it is no wonder then when you photocopy notes of another person, you don't even know when they were written, you don't know how they were written, you don't know how this person understood. It is important for you to listen for yourself, so that you are able even to pick on the cues that enhance your working memory. We have said that the working memory is enhanced by certain patterns that you observe on your own. It takes shortcuts as it makes sense of what you are saying. So listening is directly linked to ability to remember information. So now, how much, except now that you cram, if someone else listens to you during lecture sessions, and yours is only to get the notes and go and photocopy them, then I think maybe you just cram, and even when you cram, how much do you produce? Now, how effective do you become now as a communicator when that happens? So it is important for us to note that. Then let's look at levels of listening, and we have said that we listen deliberately. We choose to listen. purposefully. So depend now the level that we apply or the type of listening that we engage depends on our physical state, your physical state, how you are at that particular time. It can also depend on your psychological state. I don't want to repeat this because we did them in communication. We said that when you're communicating, it depends on how well set you are emotionally, psychologically, physically. Your background knowledge, your content of the content of the speech or lecture. So these are some of the factors that determine what level now you adopt when you are listening. So we have, I'm going to look at 5 types of 5 levels, or we can also call them types, 5 types or 5 levels of listening. There is what we call active listening, and active listening is the kind of listening with a purpose. Now, the listener is active. That's why we are calling it active listening. And it involves listening with a purpose. You are interrogating what the speaker is saying. You are listening carefully using all your available senses. That's why we are calling it active listening. You are, as you listen, you are trying to paraphrase what you are getting from the speaker, both mentally and verbally. You're also checking your understanding. We have said that the knowledge, the background knowledge that you have is also essential in choosing what level to use. So you're also checking what the speaker is saying against your background knowledge. You are also giving an active listener will be giving response, will be giving feedback, either positively or negatively. And this is the kind of listening we would encourage for everyone, and especially during our lectures. Then we have what we call empathetic. There is a spelling mistake here. Not empathic, but empathetic. It is supposed to be empathetic listening. And in empathetic listening, it is now the form of listening that we do when we are it is a form of active listening where we attend, where we intend to understand the other person by perceiving their worldview as if it is our own. So you want to put yourself in the shoes of the other person. So you are listening to them to understand their position. You are listening to them to understand whatever they are saying from their perspective. You are listening to them to put yourself in their shoes. And this is the kind of listening that we do when during counseling. This is the kind of listening that we do when even in sustaining relationships. If you are in a relationship, it is important that you understand the other, your partner. You understand how they feel, how they understand the things, what they are going through. You are able to listen to them empathetically. And this is also can also be used when you are resolving disputes. When you're resolving disputes, you listen and you want to understand their position. You want to feel with them. You want to know, to hear and understand their perspectives, their opinions. You want to put yourself in their situation and therefore be in a position if you are mediating, to mediate without being biased. If you are in a position, so that if you are counseling, you're in a position to counsel, having understood what the other person feels. If maybe you're dealing with a person in a traumatic situation, this is the kind of listening that we use. We may find ourselves in the course of interacting with others, listening to others empathetically. It is very, very important as we stay here as students that we have a skill of listening to others empathetically. People will come to you because they think that you're better off. People will come to you because they think you're making it. People that are feeling now like it is over for them, and they will come to you. They will expect you because you are teaching communication skills so that you are able to impact. So people come to you because they want to share their lives with you. So you listen to them empathetically. We have to be good listeners. We listen to them, we feel with them, we understand what they are feeling, so that now we are in a position, if it is advising, we are in a position to advise them. If it's in counseling, we are in a position to counsel them. If it is two people come to you, you are resolving the dispute, you are able to resolve it effectively without being biased. We also have listening for enjoyment, and this is the kind of listening that we do just to relax. For example, when we are listening to music, we are doing that kind of listening for enjoyment. Then we are critical listening. As scholars, as learned people, it is important that we develop this skill of listening critically. We don't listen just like naive people. We don't listen like ignorant people. Now, when people, this is the kind of listening that analyzes, evaluates, critiques, or challenges a speaker's message by evaluating its accuracy, meaningfulness, and utility. Now, as people that have been through the university, you know, the cream of this nation, we should be able to listen critically. We should be able to listen critically and make informed decisions. So when people come to us, they tell us bottom up, top bottom, you know, when we are listening to people try to persuade us, you know, you should be able to listen critically, be able to evaluate the speaker. Are they authentic? Are they honest? Are they even an authority in what they are saying? So is the message truthful? So you listen critically. You listen with a critical ear. I would encourage every other student that has been through the university education to develop this skill of critical listening. Be able to listen critically. You don't meet people there and they are telling you how they are going to. I watched a program yesterday evening, and people are being conned of their money, including university students. People tell you this, you go listen, I don't know, buy this, and then you know, you should be able to listen to them critically, analyze, critique, and then be able to know what to do, be able to take your stand. So this is the kind of listening that you do when you are listening to persuasive messages. It is not every preacher that should buy you. You should be able to listen to them against the background, maybe or background of your knowledge of the word of God, and be able to tell yourself that no, this one is not truthful. No, this one is false. Yeah. So that we don't just listen ignorantly. We are not ignorant, we are not naive. In advertisement, you're not just taken in anyhow. You are listening and evaluating the accuracy, the meaningfulness, the utility, the usefulness of what you are listening to. Listen to politicians critically. Listen to preachers critically. Listen to advertisers critically. Yes. Then we have what we call reflective listening. In reflective listening, this refers to attentive listening to the speaker, and this is the kind of listening that we do in one-on-one. So in this, you listen keenly, and you want to get the other person's emotions. You want to get the other person's tone. So this is not the kind of listening that we do speaker audience. It is the listening that we do one-on-one. Then we have the passive listening. Could be, maybe they can, or we can't say it is the direct opposite, but let me say here, could be the opposite of active listening. And it is unfortunate that many people, even in church, many people even in lectures, many people when they are listening to important messages, they do passive listening. It is very, very unfortunate. This is not the kind of listening that I would ask anyone to do during a lecture or during anything that they deem important. And this is a kind of listening this means concentrating at low levels. For example, when you're listening for pleasure, and this is the kind of listening that is characterized by remembering very little of what you have listened to. This is the kind of listening that you don't even do anything to enhance memory. This is the kind of listening that you just, you are kind of interested in nothing other than maybe the sounds of the person that is talking. The kind of listening that you do when you really don't care whether you remember whether you remember what you listened to here. It is very, very, very unfortunate that here you don't even write, but I found people listening passively. During lectures, you have no pen, you have no book, just have your phone, you are there, and the lecturer or the speaker is just speaking. You are there passively, doing nothing to enhance. You had better not attend. Maybe you came to sign the attendance register, but if you are coming into a listening session, and you do not have pens or a pen and writing materials, and I think this is why even in church we should carry a pen and somewhere to write on. Otherwise, you'll be listening passively. And now, unless you're enhancing what you are listening, then it is very, very easy for us to be carried away by many of the things, the distractors that are happening around us. There are so many things coming through. And remember, we said that hearing is involuntary. So you hear. If you're not doing anything about you are listening, then you hear. There is so much that is going to come through, and you're going to be distracted. So it is important to avoid being a passive listener, unless you don't care, remembering what you are hearing, unless you don't really mind. You are just there. So it is a kind of listening that we do for pleasure. So let us choose where to do this kind of listening. Let's not do it in our lecture halls. Let's not do it during serious listening sessions. Let's do it only when maybe we are watching ball, when we are listening to music and things like that. Passive listening. And also this kind of passive listening is very, very offensive to the people. Remember, at the end of the day, we want to be proper communicators. We want to have proper communication skills that can make us even excel in the career world. Now, even the speaker is able to notice when he's dealing with people who are inattentive, because they will be doing everything else other than listening. And there are cues that indicate to the listener that you are interested in what they are saying, that you are motivated, or you are motivating them to continue telling you. But if I come to a gathering and I find most of the people are passive, even my interest in addressing them will wane. It will wane with time. Maybe I will also hold back and just maybe rush through what I was coming to tell you and go away, because I can see the body, like we did in communication, we said that we have nonverbal communication. It can show nonverbal communication. And as long as you're not actively involved in the process of listening, then you find yourself doing other things that indicate to the speaker that you are not listening. Let's look at information barriers. I have categorized these information barriers into three. One, information processing barriers, then those that have to do with the context, and then those that have to do with the self. So I have categorized them into three: information processing barriers, then context barriers, and those that have to do with self. Now, when we come to information processing barriers, these ones have to do with the way we mentally manage information. For example, now I don't know whether as I speak to you, what I am saying is too complex up there, or maybe it is too much, or maybe my pace of delivery is too fast. There are people that have told me that we are too fast. The way now we are managing information, the way we receive information, we can have maybe complex information, or maybe information overload that makes it impossible for us to listen. So this has to do with how we process the information. If the information is too complex, if the information is too much, if the information maybe is also too shallow, or maybe the pace of delivery is too high, this can lead to information to listening, can hinder your ability to listen well or to listen effectively, because the information, the way the information is being processed mentally is being hindered. Then we have barriers that have to do with the context, and this is the surrounding in which we listen. The surrounding can also act as a barrier or as a distractor. So it is important for us to choose exactly where you want to listen from, because the surrounding can be noisy. Noise can cause distraction. The surrounding can be too hot. It can cause you not to process properly. The surrounding can even be too cold. Even the surrounding can be hostile. Then it is important for us to choose where to listen from. And we are going to see how we deal with these barriers. So, for example, if the room is too hot, what do you do? If the room is too noisy, what do you do? If the information is too much or too complex, what do you do? Then we have what we call self-barriers. And I think we have to watch out on self-barriers. Because there are some things that we cannot do anything about. For example, maybe if it is context, you may not do much about the context, but there is something you can do. But about the self, these are the biases that we said we keep on checking. And because we said that listening, it's a skill that we can improve on. This is a skill that we can work on. And we should keep on working on it until we perfect on it, because we know its importance. So self-barriers, these are personal habits that work against listening well. And these are such as not concentrating on what is being said, and there is what causes you not to concentrate. So you take care of that. If you find that you are not concentrating on what is being said, maybe because there is noise. In communication, when you're looking at barriers to communication, we said that noise is always there as an element of communication, and we said that you can find yourself not able to concentrate on what is being said, either because the message is too complex and causes what we call semantic noise, or maybe you're not concentrating on what is being said because you have also some internal noise, which is psychological noise. Maybe you are mentally disturbed, maybe you quarreled with someone and you are thinking about it, or maybe you are in pain, or maybe you are hungry, or maybe, this has to. So whatever causes you not to concentrate can be noise. Or maybe we are dealing with physical noise, external noise. And if it is external noise, you can even go in as far as plugging your ears so that you don't. So whatever causes you not to concentrate, then you deal with it. And it is important as we talk about these distractors, you not only just look or cram and try to write very fast what I am saying. Now relate what you are saying to your situations, to your circumstances, to your surroundings. What prevents you, what distracts you, what prevents you personally from concentrating. For example, now as I speak, what is it that prevents you from not concentrating what I am saying? Being distracted by noise, I've talked about it, or even talking instead of listening. Talking, speaking, it can be, we said earlier on in communication, speaking can be interpersonal, it can also be intrapersonal. You may not be talking, okay, it is very, very unfortunate when people give noise. The noise that you can hear. That one prevents. But you can also be silent and you are staring at one place and you are talking. Inside you, you are reflecting, you are talking, there are things that are acting as distractors. So talking instead of listening, and I think maybe we take care of that. Not maybe, but we should take care of talking. You might find, I have also found people, it is very, very unfortunate. It is a very, very offensive thing that the people do. If you choose to go to a listening session, for God's sake, just go, have manners, listen. People carry their phones. I am on talking. Carry their phones there. And I don't have to hear you, but you are busy chatting with someone. You are chatting on phone. Even as now, we are learning now. Maybe there are some of us who are busy chatting. Now you can postpone that. You can do it at a later time. But now in a meeting and someone is busy chatting with another on phone, very, very unfortunate. It is a barrier to listening. So we can also have a barrier having preconceived thoughts and opinions. Yeah. there is what you've told yourself about the message that you're about to receive. There are the opinions you have even about the speaker, and those can hinder your ability to listen and to listen well. And also there's something here that is not being seen properly, not being interested in what is being said. So it is important. Interest is created. You create interest. And how do you create interest? You can read ahead. You can also try, as the speaker is speaking, try to interrogate what they are saying. Try, even if maybe someone comes with something that you already know, and that can create this interest. If you already know that, try to formulate equations of try to create gaps out of what they are saying, and try to see what the speaker can answer if you already know what they are saying. So create interest. Some of us are not interested. If you find you have no interest, you have no business going sitting through for 2 hours. If you have no interest, you create interest in what is being said, because a lack of interest, not being interested, can hinder or can become a barrier to listening. Then, how do you overcome these listening barriers? I haven't tackled everything. This is something that you have to do over and over again. You have to assess yourself. I've just looked at what is general, but there are specific barriers that are specific and unique to individuals, and we should be able to interrogate them. We should be able to reflect on what you are saying here and see ourselves through the mirror of what you are saying and be able to correct on our weaknesses. So try to concentrate on the speaker's message. Remember, it is your responsibility to stay focused. Yeah. Use filters to manage and control noise. Control the 2 basic kinds of noise: external noise and internal noise. I've just talked about that. So if it is external noise, people are making noise out there, you can decide even to close to close. You can ask them, if it is possible to ask them to keep quiet, you can ask them to keep quiet. If it's not possible, then you can do something about the situation. You can lock the doors. You can even plug your ears. You don't want to hear. You can put on your headphones and concentrate on what is being said. Internal noise, then make sure that you deal with internal noise. I said that this is our emotional, our psychological state. When we come here in pain, if you are in pain, try to deal with the pain first. If you are hungry, sometimes something like hunger, you can ignore. Maybe I extend past one in your, I'm giving you a talk or a presentation, and we extend past 1. And most of you even start yawning, obtrusively. So something like hunger, some things you can ignore. You can choose to just ignore. But what you can do something about, if it is internal noise, if there is something you can do about it, then try to control. Then focus on the message. Make sure your own ideas do not interfere with the listening to the idea, with the ideas of another. So focus on the message. We said that we have what we call selective attention. This is where you choose. We said listening is deliberate. You choose to focus on the message. Yeah, we said it is deliberate. It is purposeful. So just choose to focus on the message. Then listen with positive attitude. It is important to keep a positive attitude listening. Keep an open mind and believe that it is, because if you sing, then you just in your mind you've already dismissed who you are, you know your program mind, and it's important. Attitude, work on it. It is who chooses to have a positive attitude or a negative attitude. So work on the attitude towards something, towards what you're listening to, and then you have a mind. You are going to gain, even if it's a child that is speaking, and you have a positive attitude towards that child. Even a madman, you get something useful out of that person. It is about attitude. It is about attitude. Yes. Then resist talking instead of listening. My listeners have said that this is a very, very offensive, very, very offensive habit. Maintain, make sure that you listen. Avoid making noise. Avoid talking, either intrapersonally or interpersonally when others during listening. Otherwise, so many things So many things are going to pass. So many things are going to be said, and you not get there. Let's look at our listening strategies. Now, what strategies should we employ? What strategies should we have? What strategies should we have as good listeners? Now, one, listen and think critically. That one I had elaborated, and I said that when we listen, let's not listen ignorantly. Let's not listen having blocked our minds. Let's remember we are scholars. Remember we are learners. Remember we are the cream of society. So let's not allow ourselves to be taken for granted. So when you listen and think critically. Analyze the situation, analyze the message, so that you can make a critical judgment about the messages being presented. Then number two, identify and understand the battle. So it is important that even now, we can ask you, what are some of the listening areas that you encounter in the process of your learning at the University of Embu? Now, list them all of, look at the barriers that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. Now, today afternoon, even after this, even as we continue, look at the barriers that you have, and then understand them, and then ways of dealing with them. So identifying and understanding barriers to the listening process and genuinely working towards eliminating them. Such barriers may include noise of various types, which should be eliminated in the listening process. So it is important, if we have to be good listeners, if we have to be on the skill of listening, it's important to identify. Now, it is important to identify and understand the past to listening that you, as a person, have in. You work on them, and you work on them. I have personally, seen, I've tried to work on. I think to begin with, very personal, very poor. Some people would think, now skizy, you skizy. I know I interpreted that. I had different people telling me, now where skizy? So, and that now I said that people were skizy, and I realized that as the person is talking, I am up in arms and I want to say mine. So with time, I worked on that, and I want to listen. Even when I feel so aggravated and I want to give my peace of mind, I stop, and I realized that maybe even that peace of mind was uncalled for. I ought not to even say anything. Sometimes I really wanted, and I'm daring to say something, and then I listen. I remember that, okay, you have to be a good listener. Then I listen, I calm down and listen, and then I realized that even what I was about to say would have been uncalled for, would have caused unnecessary maybe tension, and I listened to the other person's point of view. I realized that I was even on the wrong. So it is important, very, very important that and this is a lifelong process. It is not a one-time thing. It is a lifelong process. You identify and understand the barriers, and you work on them. Then identify patterns in what we are listening to. And this is very, very important, because as we said earlier, we said that we have the working memory. What we hear, and when it has gotten to our brains, it is being interpreted. We are making sense out of it, and our brains are trying to make meaning out of it, so that now we react or we act, we respond appropriately. Now, we said that our working memory looks at patterns, it looks at letters, and it uses a shortcut in making sense out of what we have listened to. So it is important to be able to identify patterns in what you are listening to, and understanding the overall message, its many points. So you look at, you listen to what someone is saying, and remember, we can apply this even when we are reading, so that you're able to capture, understand the overall message. Its many points, the starting points. These are essential. As we are going to look at note making, we're going to look at when we are making notes, we understand what the speaker is saying. then we are able to isolate the main points, supporting points, and what we need to remember, and we're able to see it through in our minds. And when we rehearse over and over, we are not going to forget. So this is essential in having a graphical impression of the messages, and it is an important aid in the recall process. Then applying memory retention skills. This is what we should forever and ever be doing in the process of listening, making sure that you apply memory retention skills. So, for example, rehearsing and rephrasing what we listen to. This one works. This one is very, very important. I remember the verses that I said during those days that we used to go and compete verses and things like that. Those verses that I rehearsed when I was in Sunday school, 10 years of age, those that I kept rephrasing, I still remember up to date. I still remember them as if it were yesterday because I rehearsed. Those set books that I loved so much when I was in high school. And we're talking about them. We kept rephrasing them. I remember up to now. I remember the poem I used to say in class 1. Why? Because of applying memory retention skills. So rehearsing and rephrasing what you hear. So rephrasing is very, very important. Now, some of us, in the process of listening to others, you want to just capture everything that the speaker is saying. Instead of listening, you get the general message, then you rephrase. You rewrite that in your own words. Now, if you struggle, if you are always struggling to catch up on the speaker, one thing is that speaking is is faster. The rate of speaking is faster than the rate of writing. So you can never quite capture every word that the speaker says. So it is important that you listen. Then you get the general meeting, then you rephrase. You refer to what they have said. Now that way, as you say in your own words, you are enhancing. You are enhancing retention. And now, if you keep on doing that, all the time you are doing that, you are actively involved in the process of listening, and therefore you are perfecting on the skill of listening, or you are making the most out of the listening session. Then use mnemonic devices. Now, this is a use of a series of letters for meaningful, pronounceable word. Each letter stands for a particular idea or point for easy recall. Now, we have done a lot. There is a process you want to remember, and you make a word, a pronounceable word, an acronym kind of, that each letter of the word stands for what you want to remember. Maybe a whole statement. Now, when you see that letter, remember we talked about the working memory, which is enhanced by patterns, by letters. So once you see I, remember I stands for this. And in my next, I have used a mnemonic device. A mnemonic device to show how we should remember what a speaker says. So, for instance, this mnemonic device is a fact. Now, is a fact. Now, this is what has been taught about how to retain the speaker's message. So now, when I am using, if I want to remember this, and because we are saying that using a mnemonic device can enhance memory or can enhance listening, then it is a fact. I want to remember what the speaker said or what my teacher said about how one can retain a speaker's message. And so the speaker had said that one, we identify the speaker's ideas and connections about among the ideas. So I write I as identify is a fact. Forming the word is identify, as, I, as, formulate, associate, consider, take notes. So when I read through all this, it's going to remind me what the speaker had said, how to retain a speaker's message. How to retain a speaker's message. So I hope you are writing. So identify, summarize, assess, formulate, associate, consider, take notes is a fact. So you can do this literally in every other area. Whenever you have listened to a speaker's message and you want to remember, you can formulate. An acronym. You can come up with a word. When you see that word, each of the letters in the word is going to remind you what the speaker's message was. Memory enhancers. I remember also during we were in primary school, when we wanted to remember everyone, maybe those we remember when we wanted to remember the colors of the rainbow. Richard of York gained battle. Now, when you see Richard, you remember that is red, and you're able to use that. You are able to use that to remember the colors of the rainbow. And you know, this was taught to me long time ago. How come I remember it up to date? More than 30 years ago. So use memory enhancers. Use memory enhancers. I'll repeat that. Use memory enhancers. Each one of us has a specific way. We'll have specific ways of enhancing their memory. So look for a pattern that can help you enhance your memory on what you are listening to or even what you are reading. So let's look at improving listening skills. Now, for us to improve our listening skills, one, paraphrasing. I have talked about rephrasing. Now, when you try to summarize the speaker's message in your own words. Now, you know what I say during lectures or during speaking sessions. Once you start talking, people begin writing, and then they write and then they get lost at some point. What you do, if you are a good listener, you listen attentively. After the speaker, you know, the speaker will always give cues. The speaker will always signpost what they are saying in a particular manner. So you are keen to listen to what they are saying. You are able to get the main point. You're able to get, if you are a keen listener, you're able to get the main point. You're also able to get the examples. So now, when you listen and you hear what the speaker said and you understand, after now you understand, you write out in your own words. This is what is called paraphrasing. So that now you are able to check the correctness of what you've understood against what the speaker has said. And this is a very, very useful, very useful skill. We can also try using this. I find some people who even read notes from a textbook and they make another textbook. Now, what should you do? You are supposed to read, understand, then you put it down what you've understood. You paraphrase in your own ways, in your own words. That way, you enhance your understanding. Otherwise, when you try to cram word for word or even to take down word for word of what a speaker is saying, you lose it on the way. You get lost on the way because you cannot actually keep the pace. You cannot keep the pace. For example, my pace. If you decided to write every word of what I say, immediately start, you begin. No, you get lost on the way. So, and I've also found people who are not able to paraphrase who do this. When the speaker is speaking, they begin immediately writing. And then mainly, so that they come to hear that. So even that was, what we wrote down was not a point. And then I said, now write, and they realize that, we wrote the wrong thing. That was not very, very important. That was an explanation. So it is important to listen to a speaker keenly to get the main point. And then you write out in your own words, paraphrasing. This is writing out. This is summarizing the speaker's message in your own words so that you allow the speaker to correct any discrepancies that you may have in your understanding. Then evaluate your skills. Everyone has listening weaknesses. You must identify your weaknesses. We have said this earlier on. So evaluate. I would like every one of us that is listening to me this morning, evaluate your skills. How good are you at listening? Evaluate your skills. Then prepare yourself physically and mentally. Yes, if you are unwell, get well, take some painkillers. Don't come to a listening session with a throbbing headache. Take some painkillers. Prepare yourself mentally. Tell yourself that I'm going to listen. Yes, prepare yourself. This is a question of physical and mental activity. It is important that we prepare ourselves both physically and mentally. And that's why it is also important that when you come to listening sessions, come in good time. That gives you sufficient time for you to settle down. But if you come to a session, a listening session, you're coming in late, you don't even know where the speaker started, you don't know where they started. You are not mentally set. You are not physically set. So it is important to do that. Then set listening priorities. Because you are bombarded with several messages at once, decide which one deserves your focus. So it is important, like we said, that you set listening priorities. Decide what you want to focus on, like what you direct your mind, and all you are asked to focus on, then that is what you are going to focus on. Then let's continue looking at improving listening skills. Make efficient use of available time. So do not rush through your conversations as you may lack full understanding of the message. Then listen attentively. Be attentive and show interest in the speaker's message. Then also listen for ideas and feelings. Look out for factual information as well as the speaker's tone of voice. Then establish eye contact. Do not stare at the speaker. Instead, glance away periodically to reflect on the topic. I have seen some people who stare. People stare at you like this. And I wonder if the 400 of you in a lecture are staring at one person like this. Now, so we are saying that you establish eye contact. Make sure that you establish eye contact. Listen to ideas and feelings. Look out for factual information as well as the speaker's tone of voice. Here, if you listen keenly to ideas and feelings, you are listening critically. You are listening. You will be able to pick out what is factual. You are going to pick out what is genuine. You are going to be able to pick out. So listen attentively, be attentive and show interest in the speaker's message. It is important to show interest in the speaker's message. As good communicators, you show interest. How do you show interest in the speaker's message? Acknowledge the speaker's message from time to time. When they say something that needs to be nodding at, then nod. If they say something that is humorous, a smile or laugh. But an inattentive listener, if you want to know an audience that is inattentive, they will not acknowledge the speaker's message in any way. They will just be blank, looking at you, so lost. So it is important for us to listen attentively and show interest. You feel good as a speaker. You feel good when you're listening to people who are acknowledging what you're saying with a smile, who are acknowledging your body language. You can see them nod, you can see them following. They are looking at you attentively. They are not slouching on their chairs or even leaning backwards full length. They are not yawning obtrusively. They are listening attentively and showing interest in what you are saying. You get to laugh such an audience. You get to empty yourself of all what you have. Even you give them benefit. So it is important to make. Here, I would like to say that it is important when you listen attentively, you make other people feel good. It is very, very important that you make others feel good as they speak to us as good communicators. Let's make other people feel good. Make your lecturers feel good as they teach you mathematics. Make them feel good as they teach you chemistry. By being active listeners, by listening attentively, by showing that you are following what they are saying. I was giving you time to write those sentences, they are long. Again, use body language to show you are listening. This is just what I had said. Body language can convey your level of interest. Employ appropriate non-verbal cues. Yeah, appropriate non-verbal cues. And I'm saying appropriate non-verbal cues. We said in communication that communication is inescapable. And sometimes you can even, you are communicating all the time, even when you don't mean to. That is what we said. And sometimes you can communicate. Body language is very, very interesting. You can communicate inappropriate message through non-verbal cues. What you did not intend. You can communicate in disinterest to your speakers without intending to communicate in disinterest. But now, once they see cues that you may not have meant to do so, but once it has been communicated, it has been communicated. It is irreversible. That's what we said. So you can communicate. So it is important that we take care of our non-verbal cues, the ones that we display when the speakers are listening to us. I've elaborated on this. I have said that when you display behavior that indicates you are either disinterested in what the speaker is saying, they are going to rush through what they are saying, so that they just finish and go, because they are not feeling motivated to continue talking to you. So make sure that you motivate the people that speak to you. Look at them. People feels, or someone feels nice when you look them in the eyes, when you smile at them as they speak to you, when you show interest in what they are saying, they feel good. And as good communicators, our intention is to be good communicators. Our purpose is to become good communicators. So make sure that you show interest when others are talking to you. Display appropriate non-verbal cues. Overlook personal characteristics of the speaker. Do not prejudge a speaker on the basis of distracting personal characteristics such as mannerisms, voice, speech patterns, or appearance. So what is more important is what the speaker is telling you. Do not judge speakers by the way of their dressing. You look at them and then you dismiss them. You look at how maybe short they are, how tall they are, maybe they are not dressed as you wish to see, and then you dismiss them on that basis. So we should not prejudge a speaker on the basis of their distracting personal characteristics. So such you choose to ignore. Maybe some of us will come looking the way you don't expect, but remember what you're interested in what they are saying. So we said that in selective listening, selective attention, you choose to focus and block all the other distractors. So how the speaker is dressed, or how they talk, maybe they do not speak as good English as you wish them to speak, or maybe you can be distracted in a small thing as maybe someone's accent. So make sure that you block all the rest and then focus on the message of the speaker. Maybe that person that you dismissed early, they come, you see them and you dismiss them early. They are loaded. They are loaded, and focus on the message. So what I'm saying, in other words, is that let's focus on the message and ignore everything else that acts as a distractor. Then choose a strategic sitting. Yeah, this is very, very important. Choose a strategic sitting, one that is appropriate for you, where you know that you maximally or you optimally gain from what is being said. So posture can affect listening. Therefore, choose a physical location that is conducive, comfortable, and practical. Yeah, we have said it at the context. We have said that one of the barriers of listening is context. So these are issues to do with environment. You can look for somewhere, sit, because I think that you are comfortable, you are more comfortable when you are seated. If maybe what is being said, you cannot see the speaker, make sure that you are at a place where you can see the speaker. I believe that in a listening session, it is very, very important that you see the person that is speaking to you. There are message enhancers that they use, non-verbal cues that you ought to see. So make sure that you take the right posture and you choose a strategic setting position. Then ask questions if permitted. And for example, we have said that this one is supposed to be a very, very collaborative, skills-based unit. So it is important to ask questions if you are permitted. Later on, after this lecture, you're supposed to interact with your lecturers, ask questions, and this helps clarify the speaker's information. Then take notes, jot down key ideas or concepts for further referencing. Yes, it is important to take notes, take notes. Take notes. I want to imagine that even as I speak now, you are taking notes. You are taking notes, and when you take down a point, an important point, you listen to the explanations, and what you understand, you paraphrase or you rephrase. You write it in your own words. It is very, very important that you write what you have heard and understood in your own words. Otherwise, that is even the language that you use to answer in the examinations. Do not endeavor to cram, or to follow word for word what the speaker is saying. So, in this session, I was supposed to look at listening and note making. I want to get up there in as far as listening is concerned, but note making, let's look at briefly at note making. And we have these words. We have note making. We have also note taking. Note making is when you are reading a text and you are extracting notes from the same. Note taking is when you are listening to a speaker like you are doing now, but all the same at the end of the day, you will have made notes. So that's why we are talking of note making. So whether you are taking notes from a speaker or you are making them yourself from a text, at the end of the day, you need the skill of note making. And notes are a shortened version of information. They are shortened version of information. So you do not endeavor to create another textbook, and you do not also endeavor to use the words of the speaker. So you read, you understand, then you put it down what you've understood. You listen, you understand, you put it down what you've understood briefly, and also using the memory enhancers that you were talking about, looking for a way of remembering what else was said. So importance of note making. Why is it important that we make notes? And I had said earlier on that I now think that even in church that we should all carry our notebooks and even our pens. Why is it important? Every other session that you imagine that you're going to listen to someone, it is important to have a pen and somewhere to jot down something, because note making is very, very important. It helps you to understand and remember what you are studying. Note making helps us to understand what we are, what we are studying. It also helps you to concentrate while you are studying. Why is it this? It is because in the process you are trying to digest. So sometimes even when we are reading, our minds can be carried away. I've seen that more often than not. When my mind is disturbed, or for example, I am a keen reader of the Word of God. I wake up to read every morning. I want to know the mind of God. And therefore, sometimes I found when I wake up and I do not have time, and something is telling me in my mind, you know, that is psychological noise. You are late. So I'll read, and I'm reading and I'm getting distracted. I read and repeat. You know, that's how, when it comes to reading skills, we say that when you read back and forth, that's a poor reading skill. So you find that you read, you've not understood. It is important. If you are taking notes, you know that holds your attention. That holds your attention as you are trying to digest. Then you concentrate on what you are studying. It also helps you to assess information. How does this happen? This happens because you are trying to select the most important parts of what you are reading or what you are hearing. So as you are doing that, you know, you are giving it some assessment. You are assessing the information. So as you are trying to see what is important, what is not important, or do I note it down? So through making notes, you are also spotting key issues. You are spotting key ideas of the material. So it helps you to assess the information. You are assessing. You want to see which one is key, which one is important, which one is an example, which one is a supporting point. So it helps you to assess information as well as concentrate on what you're studying. So if you are that person who is ever asking, now, whenever I'm reading, whenever I'm listening to a person, I find my mind taken away. I find my mind distracted. I find myself listening, thinking about other things. What you do is that you make sure that you are taking down notes, or you are making notes. And then if you are that person who says that I read and I do not understand always, make sure that you make notes. You make your own notes. You rephrase them and make your own notes. So if you do that, you will understand the content that you are reading. It also helps you to think about the subject. And how does this happen? You know, now when you write down ideas, you know, ideas trigger other ideas. Ideas are able to produce other ideas that you already know. So this makes you think and connect what you are noting down with what you already know. So it helps you think about the subject. So as you are writing that, it triggers something else that you already know, something that is in the long-term memory. It triggers that. You're able to connect ideas. You're able to connect what you are reading now. And remember, we said that, you know, our understanding, our communication, our listening is enhanced by our background knowledge. So if you are taking down notes, and then you encounter a concept, and it is related to another concept that you already know. Now that helps you now to think about the subject more, and this also helps, enhances your understanding of the concept that you are reading or that you are listening to. Now, how to take notes or how to make notes. 1, choose the main points of what you are reading or listening to. 2, show the difference between main points, supporting points, and examples. Now, when we come to look at the formats of note making, we are going to look at maybe outline where you are able to outline clearly the main point, the supporting points, and the examples. So you should also listen, read closely the source notes, thinking about the subject, decide which part of the source material are most useful, then put them down in your own words as your notes. We encourage here that if you are reading or if you take time to listen. If you are listening, take time to listen. Take time to listen, assessing what is being said and noting down what you have heard. If it is reading that you are reading and you are making notes, the first 30 minutes, make sure that you take time to read. Make sure that you take time to read so that you are able now to read the source notes well, so that you are able to decide which ones are useful. Then be brief. Then use phrases, not complete sentences, to save time. So, for example, if you are saying if you are saying that taking notes helps one to understand, you can write in briefly using a phrase like importance. So your topic will be importance of taking down notes. Then you write in a phrase, helps one to understand. Helps, so that's a phrase and not a complete sentence. Leave space in the margins for additional notes. As we're going to look at the note formats, we're going to see where you leave margins so that you're able to write other additional notes. Create networks, just in case you miss out in important points or during a lecture. So create networks. People. There are people who are completely lost. Like now when you're in first year, you can get lost. So create networks with other people to know in case you miss out on important points during a lecture. Or maybe you miss a lecture. Create networks. Begin each day's notes with a heading, name, number of the course, instructors or speakers' name, date, and topic of the day. Then write on only one side of the paper or note card. Yeah. Then note making format. This is the format that we call the corner notes. This is where we divide the page like this, so that you leave this part for the main ideas. This part here, the major part of your book or your page. This is where you write the keywords and ideas, important dates, people, places, repeated. This is where you even draw the diagrams. Yeah. And this is where you write all the information, the notes. And now out of that, now you extract the main ideas, you write them here to ease your understanding. The key ideas, you write the questions that are, and this is done after notes are completed. After the notes are completed, you take it out, and I want to encourage that you do this immediately. You know, your memory is fresh. Your memory is fresh of what was being said. Then you extract the main ideas, the key ideas, the questions here to later. Then here you write the summary of your notes in your own words. This is where you rephrase or you paraphrase, and then you're able to you are checking your understanding of what was said against the correctness of what you against what was said here or against the notes here. Then the other note-making formats are outlining method, where you write the main topic. You write you can use numbers. You can use the Roman numbers for the major topic. Then you can use the alphabets for the subtopic, and then maybe the other subtopic or the example, you can use the Arabic numbers like that. That's outline, your outline. And you can also the mapping method. This is very, very important, as you have said, that your memory needs to be enhanced. If you are writing, maybe for example, you have a way of mapping your notes so that you're able to see in your mind, you're able to see and you're able to understand. Now, when I come to that point, I think I can, being reminded that my time is far much spent, and therefore, I'd like to thank you so much for listening to me. Whatever hasn't been very, very clear, or especially the last bits of these note-making formats, we can make it clear by discussing in our various groups and brainstorming about them, reading more about them. But all the same, I thank you very, very much for listening to me, and I hope that we are going to have a busy, a blessed day, and we're also going to have fruitful sessions in the next 1.5 hours or so. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening to me. Dr. Omoke, kindly.
Okay, thank you, Emis. I don't want to say much, but just to tell the students to proceed for their tutorials. For those who have classes now, your lecturers are already waiting. So if there's anything that you may want clarification on, the lecturers are standby to help. Have a good day.
Thank you. I'll be meeting my class. I'll be meeting them in an hour or so. I'm about 40 kilometers away, but I'll be able to drive there and find them. Let me find them waiting for me. Thank you.